Liveries play a huge part in modern motorsport at every level, right from Formula 4 all the way to Formula 1, through sports cars and touring cars and motorbikes. They become part of the team or driver's identity and are the perfect incentive for sponsors to support a young driver's career or keep a team on the grid. With branding so important, it's rare we see much change when it comes to liveries, unless there's a major new sponsor like the arrival of BWT at what was at the time Force India. It can be a little disappointing for fans who want to see something exciting, but in a way the consistency is brilliant for Formula 1. And for people like me who can't draw, it's perfect. I can just colour in a car red and you get the picture it's a Ferrari. But there have been some cases in Formula 1 when teams have opted for a wackier livery, and that's why we're counting down the top 10 weirdest liveries in Formula 1. Before we begin, I just want to remind you to hit subscribe and tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future uploads. Right, straight in at number 10 is the 1994 Footwork FA15. The 1994 Footwork was driven by Gianni Morbidelli and Christian Fittipaldi. It was a difficult year for the team, who were tight on money, but the car was well designed with a neat aerodynamic package, which was later outlawed midway through the season. Livery-wise, the team's usual red and white design had been accompanied by a bright blue. The geometric pattern was designed by a company called Matrix Design and became the team's signature look in the mid-90s, though the 1994 was arguably when it looked best. The season itself might not have been anything to write home about, but at least they looked good. At number 9 is the 1978 McLaren M26 at Watkins Glen. Just a warning, a lot of these are going to be one-off liveries, special races where the designers were allowed to take a walk on the wild side and throw out the boring corporate colours. That was the case with McLaren at the United States Grand Prix. Sort of. James Hunt and Patrick Tambay had been running the traditional red and white Marlboro-sponsored McLaren all year, but Marlboro's owners wanted to push its beer brand Lowenbau in the US, thus the striking blue and white livery was unveiled for Watkins Glen. Coincidentally, it matched nicely with Tambay's white and blue helmet. The race didn't go great for the team, with Tambay and Hunt finishing 6th and 7th respectively, but it was enough to put Tambay level on points with his world champion teammate. In at number 8 is the 1989 Benetton B189. Benetton had been running a funky multicoloured livery for 3 years by the time 1989 came around. It was really the team's defining colour during its first decade of existence, so really any car from this era could have been picked. But the 1989 car had the added bonus of the 7-Up sponsor, which fit perfectly into the colourful design. The colours aren't actually too mismatched. The bold shapes fit the lines of the car almost perfectly, though it perhaps doesn't look quite as graceful as the 1988 car. The addition of the 7-Up sponsor on the rear wing balances out the dark green at the front of the car, and it's an all-round well put together livery, though not one we're likely to see in modern Formula 1. And number 7 is another livery with Marlboro trying to promote a product, Keke Rosberg's 1986 McLaren at the Portuguese Grand Prix. This time Marlboro wanted to promote its new Marlboro Gold cigarette brand. Like the packaging, the usual red chevrons on Rosberg's car were instead painted gold. Gold in inverted commas because on the car it really came across as yellow. Shockingly, this didn't become standard livery, and it was forever to be associated with a disappointing race for Rosberg, who retired from the race while teammate Alain Prost went on to finish second. At number 6 we have the 1993 Light Gerard car driven by Martin Brundle. The livery, run in the final 2 races of the 1993 season, was designed by Italian artist Hugo Pratt. It was all based on the team's main sponsor, Gitanes, featuring its name in huge letters and the white smoke in silhouette of a woman from its logo. The patchwork effect of the smoke in the name looks awesome, and has become many people's favourite livery. Unfortunately, like a lot of liveries, it wasn't exactly lucky. Brundle picked up a single point while running it. The brand continued to sponsor Elijah until the end of 1995, but its art car livery wouldn't make a return. At number 5, I've merged 2 very similar liveries from the same team, the RB3 and RB8 faces for charity cars. Back in 2007, Red Bull gave the opportunity to fans to have their picture featured on the RB3 in a mosaic livery both Mark Webber and David Coulthard would run for the British Grand Prix. Fans could even choose which car they would feature on. It cost £10 to submit a portrait, with all the money raised being donated to Wings for Life, a charity for spinal injury research. Those who chose to put themselves on Webber's car would have been disappointed when he retired from the race with a hydraulics problem after just 8 laps, though Coulthard went on to finish P11. In 2012, the team did the same thing, again for the British Grand Prix. This time, fans would feature alongside the likes of Niki Lauda, Bernie Ecclestone and Jackie Stewart on the RB8, with one fan also winning tickets to the race. This time the team took a double podium at Silverstone, with Mark Webber making up for the disappointing 2007 race with a victory while Vettel finished P3. In at number 4 is the 1999 Bar 01, the Zip livery. I think we all knew this one was going to be in here. It's probably the most famous unusual livery out there, especially of those that weren't just one-offs. The Zip livery was run on both Jacques Villeneuve and Ricardo Zonta's bar cars for the 1999 season, though the team didn't really want that. It all came down to regulations, and what else if the tobacco manufacturer wanted to sell its products. The team wanted Villeneuve to run a Lucky Strike livery and Zonta to run a 555 livery. Both brands were owned by the same company, British American Tobacco, who wanted maximum publicity. But regulations meant both drivers needed basically the same livery. The solution: have the Lucky Strike livery on one side and the 555 on the other, with a zip down the centre. Other sponsors were stuck on the nose cone, where the zip opened to reveal a plain silver background. It certainly did what British American Tobacco wanted and attracted plenty of attention for its brands. At number 3, a car that might not look too strange, the 1964 Ferrari, raced in the United States and Mexico. Ferraris are red. It's one of the few things that will never change in Formula 1, except in 1964 when, for the final 2 races of the season, they were blue. Sort of. Enzo Ferrari had fallen out with the Italian racing authorities. It was for completely non-F1 related reasons. The FIA had denied Ferrari's new car eligibility to compete in the GT racing, and the ACI hadn't been in Ferrari's corner. He declared he would never race in Italy's national colour of red again. Obviously this didn't happen, but it appeared in 1964 when the F1 circus rocked up to Watkins Glen that he was deadly serious. Officially there were no Works Ferraris, but really they had just been entered under the North American Racing Team banner. Lorenzo Bandini and John Surtees, who had been racing in red all season, were now in blue, the US racing colours. The colour of the car made no difference to the races. Surtees finished second in both and secured the title. Unsurprisingly, Ferrari reverted back to red for the 65 championship, but Surtees' title victory means Ferrari's brief stint in blue will be forever remembered. And number 2 is probably my favourite car on this list, the Honda RA107 Earth Honda. The RA107 wasn't a great car. Honda took a whole 6 points from the 2007 season, all scored by Jenson Button, and ended 8th in the Constructors' Championship. But the team made a bold statement when it revealed its livery at the National History Museum in London at the start of the year. The blue and green Earth livery focused on Honda's environmental ambitions. The only logos on the car were Hondas and Bridgestones, the first time in 30 years an F1 car had run a permanent livery sans any sponsors. Realistically, that's not going to happen again anytime soon. Sponsors are such a key part of F1 that to run without any on the car at all is a bit crazy, but it's still a beautiful car. And at number 1 we have the 1979 Shadow DN9 driven by Jan Lammers. This car tops a lot of worst liveries of all time lists, and I can kind of see the point. It does look like an 8-year-old's bedspread. But it also has to be one of the most unusual liveries. Lammers joined Shadow in 1979 with backing from tobacco brand Samson, which had a lion as its logo. Instead of just having the logo on the side of the car with the Samson colours adorning the rest, Shadow went all out with a huge artistically drawn lion with flames coming out of its mane, perfectly placed so it appeared to be eating the car's number. It's just a little bit bizarre, but this was the 70s. And that's it for our top 10 unusual liveries. Are there any we missed out? Which was your favourite? Let us know in the comments below. And make sure you follow Motorsport Fans on Twitter, where you can vote for our next subject.